here today. We have an awesome event in store. We have two amazing panelists, but before we fully dive into the content side here, drop in the chat, let us know where you're joining from. And we were just talking about vacations and travel. So let us know if you have any cool travel plans coming up because we're trying to crowdsource some ideas for ourselves. So we're going to kick off in just a second here. But hopefully for everyone that's joining us here today, you are here for the Creative Outbound Lab, your guide to fresh plays, scrappy tactics, and pipeline gains. And this event would, of course, not be possible without the amazing partnership of ZoomInfo, who's someone we've worked with for a few years now. We do a ton of content, events, create resources together. And so they've been just a wonderful, wonderful partner to women in sales. So I am going to have our panelists introduce themselves, but Megan, I'm going to give you a bonus activity, which is, can you also introduce ZoomInfo alongside yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Megan. I worked as an enterprise SDR over at ZoomInfo. We provide business intelligence to business companies. We're doing a lot of work with AI right now and kind of lead the field in the data and intelligence space. I worked with Aaron as an enterprise SDR, kind of transitioned to more revenue enablement, but we'll touch on that at the end.
Amazing, amazing. Aaron, what about you?
Yeah, and my name's Aaron Levine. I've been at ZoomInfo for a little over 2.5 years now. Always been in the enterprise space. Fortunately, have been working alongside Megan for the past 6 months or so, and have been in the SaaS DaaS world for the past 9-10 years.
Amazing, amazing. So happy to have you all here. And I don't even know if I said hello, but my name is Alexine Moudouar. I am CEO of Women in Sales, and I will be moderating for these two incredible partners. And so very excited for that. I saw in the chat, we have some really cool locations. We have Philippines, Spain. I saw Aruba. There's a little bit, everybody's joining from everywhere, and I can name about 10 places you all dropped that I would rather be right now. So thank you all for being here. Feel free to also drop your LinkedIn profiles in the chat so you can connect with one another after the event. And we've also included a link to the Women in Sales Slack community so that you can join in on future events just like this one. But we're going to dive right in. So Megan, Aaron, you two, we chose for this event today because you are an SDR AM aligned duo. And it's always great to talk to duos like you so we can understand how you first got aligned, what it's been like working together, how long you've been working together. So take us back to the beginning of how you first got started working together and a little bit about how long that's been going and just some early days there. So Aaron, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so we actually got partnered up together at an interesting time. I was out on pat leave all of January, so I came back and Megan and I were assigned from the get-go. I was also working on one of the largest deals of my career, so things were very hectic, as you can tell, both professionally and personally. But fortunately, Megan was able to come in and be a great resource for me and support our book of business.
Amazing, amazing. Megan, what about anything to add on just the early alignment, how you guys got started together?
Yeah, so I was promoted up from an inbound new business position. So I was stepping into the customer realm, the outbound realm, and the enterprise realm, of course. So when we got paired, I was super excited. I'd heard great things about Aaron. And yeah, it was honestly not too bad just because I needed to get a lot. Like I kind of needed to get my grasp on things as well. But a lot of those early days were just, kind of figuring out what the account book looked like as he's focusing on these large deals and seeing kind of where I can support in preparation for when that closed.
Amazing, amazing. Well, we're going to dive in a little bit. I know for both of you, you specifically focus on enterprise, which is this elusive vertical. We talk all the time about different segments and everybody always wants to know about enterprise. It's just one of those that we don't talk enough about. So I think let's start with you, Megan, for this next question. But how are you in particular, making sure that you're standing out when you're focusing on enterprise? Because it's a very different segment than, say, SMB or mid-market.
Yeah, no, definitely. Absolutely, it is. So the approach that we take is both consultative for both of us. But what I kind of started to do when I approach enterprise is to make sure that it's as personalized as we can be and that we are not just going straight to the C-suite, right? So one of the things that's been great about working with Aaron is that we are calling people who are account managers, account executives, directors, managers. And those earlier calls might be just more discovery on my end to figure out what's going on internally at the company. And then once you have that context or names, then kind of going on to those higher titles and being like, hey, just talked to your team over at, XYZ, heard this is going on, wanted to connect with you as well, just to see kind of from a leadership perspective what that looks like.
Awesome. Erin, what about you when you're thinking about enterprise specifically? How do you stand out in the space? How is it different than what your peers are focusing on? Take us through that.
Yeah, I always tell Megan this isn't a transactional relationship with our clients. We only have about 25 clients that we work closely with, but we want to really be ingrained in their business on an everyday, weekly, monthly basis. So I'm constantly having meetings with them, reoccurring meetings, really understanding what their challenges are, what their goals are, not only for the months, the quarters, but also the entire year, as well as, especially as the environment continues to change. But we want to continue to show value from a ZoomInfo standpoint and how we can help their business grow and how we can help them maintain their business. So a lot of times we're also coming in, repairing the relationship, helping them see how ZoomInfo can help them in different ways. And then, as Megan kind of alluded to, earning the right to work our way up to the C-suite and a lot of the decision makers.
Yeah, definitely. Can you take us a little deeper into the messaging side specifically? Because I think, there was a beautiful point in time where we could get away with kind of duplicating the same message and mass spamming across a bunch of accounts. And we could get away with that maybe in some of our SMB accounts. You guys are working enterprise though, so we know it's a different beast. So take us a little bit deeper into the messaging side, like how you kind of think about messaging, why it needs to, how much you have to tailor in order to actually break through the noise because of the segment that you're in. So Erin, we can start with you for that.
Yeah, I emphasize that every single one of our messages and outreach has to be personalized. And that just goes back to what I said about understanding what's going on within the business. We have some great tools here at ZoomInfo to give us intel of what's going on. Also, the fact that we're consistently having conversations with individual contributors all the way up to decision makers. And we make sure to use that intel and that information and plug that into our messaging and our communication with the client.
Yeah, absolutely. Megan, anything to add? Because I imagine you're doing a lot of the, the messaging at the highest level. So we'd love to hear from you on this too.
Yeah, no, definitely. Erin and I, when we prepped for this, kind of talked about this aspect as well, but with enterprise, it's not a volume game. You cannot just mass email out. That's a great way to just get kicked out of an account by a main point of contact. They don't want you mass spamming them. But something that I kind of picked up on is, and it worked really well for us, is I would kind of take a template that maybe our marketing department has created for us, but that's not going to be what I send out. I'm going to utilize some of our internal tools like Copilot to kind of add that context, paste the template in, and then based upon their name and title and company, it can kind of rewrite it so that it still saves me a little bit of time, not going through one by one, but whatever product that we're kind of looking at or emphasizing, we're still able to personalize that further than just a regular marketing email. Also, if there's news that, sometimes I'll come in Slack, Erin, and be like, hey, did you know, they just won this giant award. We should probably touch base with them and see what's going on there, or exec changes. So we'll utilize a lot of that and just making sure that we show that we have done our research and have done the background necessary to kind of, gain that trust, gain the credibility there.
Amazing. And this, I promise this is not a planted question, but we did get a Q&A question that I wish I could have planted. So Emanuela was asking, can you tell us more about how you use Copilot to personalize at scale? So this could be for either of you if you want to take it.
Yeah, I can definitely go. Okay, cool.
I'm going to say, Megan, you start.
Yeah. So kind of first thing what that looks like is I would go to the account level within ZoomInfo, and we have kind of these automatically prompted questions at the top that are catch me up on recent interactions. that's usually where I'm going to start, just to have a baseline understanding of what I'm looking through here. And that sets me up for success. We have internal tools as well that we can kind of use that are able to pull from our CRM data, from more like just language learning models and that Copilot intel. And that's where I can kind of mess around with templating. You could do the similar things like with ChatGPT if your company doesn't have that type of internal AI structure. But really, it's making sure that you know the context and that you are taking it, from a reputable source. Copilot's been really great just because it does have that background of our CRM. It pulls in meeting intelligence. So I'll see things in there, when I ask it, catch me up on recent conversations, I'll have like Aaron met with their CMO who just recently moved to the company. Like that's an important thing that I need to know if we are specifically targeting their marketing department. Going in blind is not going to be helpful. And then I'm able to kind of check back and look at the template again and then personalize it according to them just kind of like, them just having a conversation.
Yeah, and obviously Megan is focused on a lot of the outreach to our clients, where I utilize Copilot to really prep for meetings. So I'll get Slack notifications on job changes, promotions, new executives that have joined the team, and then also getting notified of any 10Ks, 10Qs. So I click in there, do my research, and then also utilize Copilot to help prepare for a meeting on previous, because it is able to capture previous meeting notes, put together an agenda and potential topics to cover in an upcoming meeting also.
Amazing. There's so much more available today. Like Aaron, you've been in this a minute too. Like I started over 10 years ago in tech sales, and the early days were wild, and I wasn't even in the early days of sales. And so it's just amazing, this information at your fingertips. A lot of this was information we had to gather manually, put into a giant Salesforce note, and try to just reflect back on it and connect the dots. Now it's as simple as a click of a mouse to be able to get some of that information aggregated at your fingertips and get you ready for a meeting. It's just so different. So I'm a little jealous of the selling of today, but yeah, amazing. Thank you both for sharing. And Emanuela just tried it and loved it. So, okay, very cool testimonial. Yeah, awesome. Real time ROI. But we're going to switch gears a little bit because we promised this event was going to cover inbound, or rather creative prospecting. And so, Megan, this question is going to go to you, and then Aaron would love to have you chime in as well. So you previously came from inbound. We all know that it happens. Inbound slows down sometimes. We wish that it didn't, but it does. So the pipeline still has to come from somewhere. We don't just stop working. We have to keep going, try to hit our target. So would love to hear from you on what the most creative prospecting tactic you've tried recently that actually got a response.
We have an enterprise one that we talked about, but one that, I really like and that I'll check in on, is using like websites. This is not like a Zoom info product pitch here, I promise you. But when you're able to kind of track who's at least visited your website, you're able to kind of follow the breadcrumbs back. And then even if they didn't fill out a form, you're able to kind of look, oh, this company, someone here has been visiting our website like 6 times in the last 2 days. Things like that can be really beneficial. Intent signals are always a go-to as well, especially for broader motions. Since we're working in enterprise accounts, you can kind of narrow down that way as well. But one of scrappier methods is so first of all, like just stay relentless on these. I'm going to be honest. Like you just have to keep going. Don't like spam them, but once you get a response from someone in the company, then you can kind of multi-thread in to it and then use like something like just connected with XYZ, and then you bring the next person in with that sort of draw. I had a account that I fought for my life to get into, and they had a sales conference, actually like a company-wide sales conference in the Midwest, and I knew about that. So emailed this guy saying, oh, I just had a conversation with your colleague. It was a brief conversation. But the guy who was, I think, like a VP of sales at an enterprise company called me after the conference. He was like, is this Megan? I was like, yeah, it's Megan. I didn't know who he was. And he was like, this is Dan from, this company. I just had my coworker come up to me at the conference and ask me who you were and if you need to respond to you. And he was like, honestly, with just like that level of persistence, like, I'll take the meeting. And I was like, great, that's what I needed to hear. So making sure that you're kind of using all your resources if you are multi-threading into accounts, and I would highly suggest it, because even if you don't think that they are directly going to be the decision maker, especially with something like sales, there's really sales adjacent positions like enablement where they're going to be a part of this. And even though the job title isn't going to be, the first one that you would look for, they can have a perspective on it that might be beneficial in the longer term, and they might be easier to kind of talk to, especially in, when you're dealing with large accounts.
Yeah.
And just to add on to what Megan was saying before I get into like my answer, but she knows I don't turn down any phone conversation. I think it's a great way to be a partner with our clients and a better way to understand the ins and outs of the companies. So I challenge everyone who's in attendance here today just to get to know your clients. Don't turn down a phone conversation. You're not too big to talk to an individual contributor. Oftentimes that helps build your use case to get up to a decision maker.
Yeah. We definitely witnessed that with our accounts that are really difficult to kind of get in touch with. Once we have those conversations, it's a really amazing jumping off point to kind of find that success.
100%. Yeah. And I was thinking about this question too, about like creative ways to break into accounts. And years ago, I was selling a gifting platform. And one of my prospects was actually, she authored a children's book. And so basically what I did was I had her children's book added to our marketplace, and then I sent it to her as a gift. And I was like, hey, by the way, this is now part of our marketplace. Of course you get the meeting, like you're guaranteeing yourself a meeting there. But it was just like cool. It's these cool ways that we can break through the noise and also think about what's going to actually grab attention. It is getting harder, as you both know, year over year to actually capture attention, to keep attention from prospects. And we are competing against every other salesperson out there, even though in women in sales, we're all friends. But so it's really competitive right now. It's hard to break through the noise. Any other like fun examples that come top of mind of like a meeting that you got, even if it didn't close and become a customer, just anything that like makes you smile thinking about it?
Well, I was going to say, you were speaking Megan's language. She just had a book of hers published, which was very exciting. So congratulations to Megan. I was going to say, you never know who's going to be a champion for you. So again, going back to being a great partner, and it's not always about selling. A lot of times it's about increasing adoption and showing value of your product and services. So for example, I've been working on a large hospitality client for the past 2.5 years, and it has been nearly impossible to crack into other areas within the business. They have not increased their spend, and we just haven't been able to get in front of the right people. Long story short, I most recently, just a couple months ago, I was able to get in contact with one of our board members here at Zoom Info, and I somehow made a connection between how he has a personal relationship with the CFO at this hospitality account. And he quickly garnered an introduction to this person. That CFO brought in their SVP of sales. Our founder and CEO got involved. And then here we are just a couple months later, and we're looking to quadruple their spend, which is extremely exciting. And also I have to tip my cap to our leadership team, who is always willing to get their hands dirty and get on these types of calls for us.
That's amazing. That's awesome that your CEO is ready to get in there too. Like those are the best when you can get your leadership team involved to meet with their leadership at the same level, and then just almost get out of the way sometimes. I think that is incredibly powerful.
I don't think it would have been possible if we didn't keep that client happy for the past 2.5 years and just making sure that they were utilizing our solutions to the utmost of our potential.
100%. Totally agreed. Megan, anything else before we move forward Any other cool meetings as of late? Any other cool outreaches? Because I know everybody is just chomping at the bit. They want to hear what's working right now to break through the noise.
Yeah, so I have seen a lot of success with, I haven't personally done it. I meant to do it for a while. I've had recent transition, but a lot of people are using video now. And I have heard, I'm in so many different group chats with a ton of SDRs. And there has been a lot of success by following up with like a video, introducing yourself on LinkedIn in some of the messaging there. I think that's a really great way to break through, to kind of have that like especially personalized touch. If you're going to be in an enterprise space, like that's going to be, that level of care can kind of break through the noise there. One thing that used to work really well for me on inbound more so was sending screenshots of our platform, like for their company's use case, to them in an email. So for Zoom info, something like intent, I would go through their website and understand what they're kind of like, what are they offering? What's their market, what industries, then would do the search myself by hand, send a screenshot of it, subject lines like, 1,200 companies in Georgia actively looking for your solution, something like that, and then there's a screenshot and the message is pretty brief, but it's just like, would this provide value to your business? And whether it's for SDR folks, if they haven't accepted the meeting invite yet, you want to get that accept. I think every single time I sent that as a follow-up to a call where they already kind of scheduled a time, if I sent that to them the night before, you would see the no response change to an accept like pretty much every time. So making sure that you're like adding value even after you might get a time is going to really kind of support you getting new prospects to kind of have interest, and then keeping the ones who maybe were a little tentative.
Yeah. And I saw in the comments here, Maria said, video is how I got through to a large account. I texted a video of my introduction to a VP and it got me in. So I love that we're talking about video. And here's the nice thing about video is part of the reason we use video is to be more human. And so if you like stumble on one word, if you have like a weird pause at some point, like these don't have to be perfect. And I think that's really beautiful that there's like still a channel that exists where you don't have to be 100% perfect, orchestrated, every single word pre-selected. And I think that is just such a beautiful thing. And honestly, I like when people have like a little like whatever in the middle and I'm like, oh, cool, this is a real person talking to me. Or maybe they're like on a walk recording this video. Like there's just something very human about that still. And it's very comforting to me when people are doing outreach in that way. So love that. And I also saw a comment, the chat is runneth over with so many good ideas and prospecting tips here. So Sabrina said, adding it to your sequence as a touch point for tier 1 accounts is money. Can also be weaved into any part of the buying cycle to help accelerate time to close. So yes, absolutely. Great ideas here. I feel like we have a whole other webinar happening in the chat here full of learning. So keep those coming. Let's keep sharing those even in the chat as well. And we're going to move forward in our conversation and talk about, we know the traditional channels. We know phone, we know email. We are intimately familiar with both as salespeople. But what are some of the channels, unconventional touch points, other things you've experimented with to reach out to prospects? Are there, that could be LinkedIn, it could be, wherever. But I'll let you, Aaron, if you want to start here, let us know where else you're reaching out to people.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing is that we have so many great tools and events here at Zoom Info that Megan and I leverage all the time. So it's road shows, it's sending gifts, it's inviting folks out to webinars. I'd say those are some of the top ones that come to mind. Megan, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I mean, the road shows are amazing. Like I would prefer to be able to just, kind of like transport from place to place, just because, whenever I get to have like a face-to-face interaction with someone at one of my accounts, it's like really cool, first of all, just to, like see them in person. And then also you're really just able to kind of like have a personality so much more than you can on a like 2-minute conversation on the phone. So, I mean, if you have prospects in your area, just like, showing your face is never a bad idea. I think it can be really beneficial. LinkedIn can be a big one, especially depending on the industry. If I'm looking into talent recruiting, I'm going to be on LinkedIn. I'm going to be messaging them on LinkedIn. They live on LinkedIn. So, kind of understanding where people are going to be most of the time. I am not the biggest texter at ZoomInfo as an SDR, but like a lot of my coworkers have so much success with it. I don't know why I don't do it, but I've always had a little bit of like hesitation there. The one other one that I really would shout out is WhatsApp for if you are doing international. I had a lot of success on inbound when, we're in the States, but I would get inbounds from all over the world, and taking the time to like use WhatsApp did make a huge difference, especially for like time changes and stuff like that.
As I think about it more too, I encourage people to create some touch points that don't always involve some sort of sales tactic. Reach out and congratulate people on having a great earnings call or getting promoted, or give them or share an article that that you thought of then when you read it, and give them some insight and educate them on what's going on within the market.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even like commenting on their LinkedIn post, that is one of the ways I got into many of my largest accounts, is rather than just shooting emails into the abyss, I started to interact with their content, especially when you have a prospect who is trying to build their personal brand up and is really working hard and curating content, thoughtfully commenting without pitching. Nobody likes pitching in the comments on LinkedIn, but just kind of like interacting with that content. I remember one of the largest accounts I closed, I ended up reaching someone on their C-suite, and I was working large enterprise strat accounts at the time. And I called about a Monday morning because I was convinced I love doing the outside hours that everybody frowned upon. And so I called him on a Monday morning. I had been commenting on his content for, basically a few months at that point. And he would comment back, and I was like, cool, we're starting a dialogue. And when I said my name on the phone and I was like, hey, this is Alexine calling from that company at the time, he was like, I was expecting your call. I just didn't know when. And he's like, thanks for interacting with everything. When do you want to get scheduled? We didn't even do a pitch. Like, he was like, when do you want to have the meeting? I figured you would call at some point. Let's do it. And so I think that's even just such a great way to break through the noise and stand out, because the way that people comment today, it's not always great. Like, a lot of it's like, hey, we have a solution that does that too. And we kind of freak them out a little bit. So commenting on LinkedIn is a great way. I also saw, I don't know, Erin or Megan, if you could speak to this, but I saw like ZoomInfo Awards as something that we had talked about previously that you use. Can you dig in a little bit more on the awards? And then also, if one of you can speak to the roadshow, because Kyle asked in the chat, what does a roadshow look like for you? How are you able to schedule them? Like, what is that? So if one of you can speak to roadshow and one can speak to awards, would love to hear about that.
Yeah, I can do roadshow if you want to do awards, Erin.
Yep.
So, okay, cool. So roadshow events, that's a company-wide thing. So our company, ZoomInfo, had a roadshow this last year for a new product that we rolled out, Go-to-Market Studio. So we were in several cities, kind of across the country, and it took time. I'm not gonna lie, it took time to figure out where every single prospect and every single company was, to see what aligned. For me, I put a lot of work into Boston because I knew we had a lot of accounts there that were based out of there. And so but it was well worth it. So if your company's even just sponsoring an event in a certain city and you have taken the time to recognize, you've seen them on LinkedIn enough that there's a ton of people that this company has out of Boston. I really just reached out to them on LinkedIn and gave them a call and was like, hey, we're having an event coming up. I'm going to be there in person. Actually, I'm super excited to visit the city. We'd love to kind of see you there. It's blah, blah, blah. Do you want me to get you registered? And it was a success, I texted everyone the night before because I'm getting on the plane. Hey, can't wait to see you tomorrow. So, sometimes there are some things that it's going to take a little bit more time, but honestly, it was so fun that it was well worth the time spent. But yeah, it doesn't have to be a roadshow just for your company. If you guys are having an event, or see that, one of your prospects is going to an event in person, that's always a great opportunity too.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, as you can see, Megan really doesn't need a lot of direction or guidance here. She's extremely proactive and has been a great partner. But I was going to talk about the award side of things. So being in the data and the SaaS space, there's a lot of ongoing awards that we get nominated for or we win. The most recent one, G2 recognized ZoomInfo in like over 25 different categories, and we were very fortunate to be named #1 in a bunch of those. So I proactively reached out to a bunch of our clients, letting them know and just saying, hey, thank you for helping us achieve this accomplishment, while also sharing some other updates on our product and our data coverage. We most recently expanded our EMEA data by over 6 million contacts. So yeah, just reaching out to clients, saying thank you, and then giving some updates that are going to benefit them.
Yeah. Great ideas here. If others that are here attending in the audience today, if you have creative outreach ideas, drop them in, because we're trying to learn from you too. And whatever is working today is working. I know from the women in sales side, one of the best ways that we drive leads for ourselves, we are also in sales, if you didn't know, is we do a lot of like executive dinners. And to be honest, it's kind of the same philosophy. We get really great people in a room. We facilitate the conversations. We let them know just high level what we do, and then we get out of the way and we let them communicate with each other. We let the organic connections happen. And by nature of that, we always end up generating some kind of leads for ourselves. And it doesn't come off icky. It doesn't come off like super aggressive. I think any of those executive dinners, executive retreats, any opportunities where we can let people connect on a peer-to-peer level, where we can still be in the periphery, but we're not front and center necessarily, that is very attractive to executives and those high-level points of contact you're reaching out to. So I know that requires budget as well oftentimes, but worth exploring internally with your companies. If you have, a certain city, is really successful, maybe you put together and have your team invest in a little bit more expensive dinner event. But the payoff of that, if you can maybe even get one deal out of that, is amazing. So, and Megan, we got a question for you in the chat from Grace, who just asked about your organization tactics, schedule, blocking, touch points. Basically, they were just curious about your day-to-day, how you stay organized and make sure that everything is moving along smoothly and that you're also hitting your targets. So any insight?
Yeah, that's a good one. I am hyper organized just because I'm kind of all over the place a lot of the time. So when it comes to time blocking, typically I'm Pacific time. So I actually have a document that's called like daily plan. And I have through that, I block time in the morning, that's where I'm going to be hitting companies that are Eastern time, right? That's going to be big calls for Eastern time, and making sure that you're considering your time zone, especially if you are on inbound. Like there's a sweet spot there. You want to hit East Coast 8 to 9:30 is ideal, or in the afternoon after 3. So kind of coordinating what products or prospects are most important to you to hit during those ideal hours. From that, I will then kind of move down to Pacific time, and that's all written into the daily schedule. Midday, because that's just not really my favorite time to call, is when I'm going to start focusing on things like email or LinkedIn messaging. Regarding email, if it's a prospect you've been chasing for a long time, think about schedule sending. It's never a bad idea to just make sure it gets to the top of their inbox. When it comes to touch points, I have a lot of Google Sheets that have a list of prospects, and it's a little nuts. But I will check off boxes like touch point 1, cool. Touch point 2, cool. There's about 16 different platforms that can make that a lot easier than the manual way of doing it. But there are some companies that Aaron and I have worked on where I was like, I just can't get in this. So for something like that, I usually will have a top 10 that are like, these are the people that I will be chasing manually for like the next 2 weeks. And if there's, you also just kind of have to take an L sometimes, don't spend 2 months focused on a prospect. That's not going to happen. I would probably say I'll focus on a person for maybe 2-3 weeks max. And then touch point wise, I usually do like a 6 touch point cadence. So I'm a big call first, email second. That's I love this tactic. It's call, leave a voicemail. Hey, this is Megan from Zoom Info. Just wanted to touch base with you real quick. Had a quick question. I'm going to shoot you over an email here in a second. So look out for that in your inbox, or just give me a call back at email subject line, just called quick question. Open rate, very high. Like that connection right there is such a good way for like a first initial touch point. And then from there, maybe you go a day, maybe you go 2 days, whatever. Make sure LinkedIn's in there, call again, email again. I think longest sequence usually will last for like 2 weeks for me, especially if it's more at scale.
Absolutely. I love a multi-channel approach. My first sales tactic that I ever taught when I was teaching early days was the triple touch technique. And that was look at their LinkedIn profile, call, leave a voicemail, point the voicemail back to an email, make sure that they saw my face, heard my voice, and got a message from me. And I think that works so well because you're basically following through with something already. You're creating trust inadvertently because you're saying, hey, I'm going to send you an email right now. And then you're following through with that action. You're also creating familiarity because they're seeing you across multiple places. So such a game changer in terms of response rates there. Great advice. Aaron, anything to add? Otherwise, I'm going to take you into a similar direction, but we're going to go off the road a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, Megan and I work in tandem together. So she'll CC me on a lot of these emails, and then we'll meet on a regular cadence at least once a week, and then ad hoc as well. And we're constantly slacking throughout the day in between a lot of the funny memes and gifs that Megan creates for us. But yeah, she'll tap me on the shoulder and be like, hey, would you mind just sending an email on top of this, introducing yourself? And it's amazing how many times that works. Or I'll start the cadence off and CC Megan and vice versa. Then she'll take that next step and call or send a follow-up email.
Amazing. Such good advice here. I know one part of when people are attending this event today, they know that you two are aligned as, a team here. Alignment is a tricky subject because people have had mixed experiences. You guys are a great example of a good experience and a good alignment. Not everybody has a strong alignment. Not everybody has a good relationship if they're AE and SDR, if they're AM and SDR, BDR. So would love to hear from you two more of the strategy and organization process behind your alignment itself. Like, how do you stay organized? How do you stay in communication? Anything you want to share on this? Because I know that we have members who are struggling with this today, whether they're on the AEAM side or the SDR BDR side. So Aaron, let's kick off with you and then we'll go to Megan.
Yeah, I take it upon myself to ensure that Megan and any SDR that I've worked with in the past or even that I'll work with in the future is successful. I fully understand what it's like being in their role, as I was a BDR when I first entered the software space myself. So we have a shared document going over all of our accounts. I list out our main points of contact, our next steps, what we plan on talking about, some of the challenges that they're going through, their business objectives. And then that way, Megan can then go in there, use a lot of that information to personalize the outreach. And then a lot of times I will even go in and I will do prospecting on my own, drop names into that shared document. So I'm essentially spoon feeding her and telling her who to reach out to directly.
Amazing. Constant communication, full transparency. Those are very key elements to making sure there's success. Because if one of you doesn't know what the other one's working on, that is where there's ambiguity and that creates misalignment and anger. So yeah, Megan, what about you? Anything to add?
Yeah. I mean, Aaron's not my only alignment that I've ever had in my life. Sometimes like personality wise, we got a great one. Sometimes it's not that case. One thing that was really emphasized to me from my manager and was really actually like important, I think just for everyone to realize, is that not all AMs or AEs have been SDRs. Mm-hmm. Like make sure that your partner understands how you get paid and how your quota works. Like it sounds really basic, but it really, like sometimes they don't know. So if you're on a demos booked, that's what you need to get to. Make sure that they know that and like be open about what that looks like for you, because like it's hard to kind of explain that to someone and be like, hey, what's happening? I need more. When they feel like they're busy. They're like, I have meetings all the time. No, make sure they understand how your job works too. And then, constant communication is always important, kind of understanding just based on the person you're paired with, what their level of protection is over their accounts. That's something where, I've had account managers who are very protective of their accounts. They don't want me prospecting into them too much, or they have like strenuous relationships with some of these accounts. Kind of make sure you know what those are and also like respect them. That's a really great way to lose trust. If, they're like, this is a DNC account, and then you go and call the do not call account. Like that's going to be something where you kind of have to have trust in each other there, and make sure that you're like actively kind of working together instead of, the other way around. So I think those are my big ones. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. I had to go on a little offshoot tour to try to find this post, but I dropped it in the chat. One thing I always did with my aligned BDRs was I would do like an out of pocket. I know you don't have to do this. I'm not suggesting people use their own money, whatever. But I posted an example where when we closed a deal, I actually bought like a steak dinner, and we did like a virtual steak dinner because it was during COVID. So I like Venmo'd my BDR. I'm like, this deal closed. I obviously made a great commission check as the AE. I'm like, here's steak dinner. So I don't know, just think about fun things. It doesn't have to be every deal, especially if you're in like a higher volume setting. Totally get it. But maybe once a quarter, maybe twice a year, maybe once a year, just try to do something, especially if you're on the AEAM side, like just, or something as simple, just shouting them out as much as humanly possible internally. So if a deal closes, making sure they get recognition. If you know that you're aligned, SDR, BDR is like clawing their way to a promotion to AE, try to be an advocate for them. It doesn't have to be money related. It could be, especially if you close a big deal, maybe we find, $75 for a steak. But I do think just making sure we're recognizing the folks that are in those roles who are consistently supporting us day in and day out, that is a great way for them to also perform even better to help us hit our goals. But I think what you shared is so critical, that we need to understand also how the person we're aligned with is being comped, and that street goes both ways. So we need to understand, for you, Megan, how is Aaron being comped? What is he measured on? What are some of his goals, and what are like big misses for him? Like if he doesn't get this, what's going to happen? And then vice versa, Aaron, like what's Megan actually comped on? Where's she at for her quota for the month? What does she need to get to the next step in her career? I think understanding those things just creates such a stronger relationship. It's more powerful. So really, really good advice here. And I think I've seen this improve a lot over the last few years, but there was definitely a point like 3 to 5 years ago where there were a lot of like pairings, and I would just hear horror stories constantly of people having, really tough alignments and just at odds with the person that they're supposed to be working alongside. So it's just so cool to see a really good example here of two people who have a really, really strong alignment and are doing well together.
I also challenge the AEs and AMs out there who are working with SDRs and BDRs to ask the SDR and BDR, like, what are your professional goals? Like, most people, the end all be all is not to remain in that position. So if things work out in that partnership, like, where do you want to go with your career? And like, I'm always more than willing to help put in a good word or help lead them in the right direction. I think it's the best thing that you can do outside of obviously rewarding them or giving like a virtual high five or a shout out is helping them move along their career path.
Yeah, I can't agree with that more. Like, it's, I think especially with Aaron and I's alignment, like, obviously like I've learned a lot from Aaron and all of that, but also just, it's like almost in an ideal setting, it can kind of be like a mentor-mentee kind of situation as well sometimes, where, I'm kind of able to figure out. And I think I've had a lot of really great account managers, especially at Zoom Info, where they do take, like stock of that, and have been super supportive of, me moving on since, I think it's always helpful when they've been an SDR too, because they kind of know like, yeah, let's get you out of here.
Yeah. And you want to see the people that you care about grow their careers. And inevitably that's a sign that you're doing really well, even as the AE and AM, if you're able to help coach this person up. So yes, everything goes back to reciprocity for the win. We are 15 minutes till the end of this, and we still have a few questions from our side. So we have a quick ask for everybody that's in the audience. If you can go to the Q&A tab and upvote the questions that you are most interested in, because I'm not sure if we're going to hit all of them. And also, this is going to be a last call to post any questions in the Q&A that you do have. So upvote, add those questions, and we'll bookmark a couple minutes at the end to make sure we go through those. And where we're headed next, I'm going to kind of combine a few themes that we were going to talk about during today's session, but no surprise here, we're going to talk AI. AI is all we talk about these days, so it's got to come up in the conversation. So would love to hear from both of you around, where you're leveraging AI in your process today, specifically on the outreach side, and then any advice you have as far as like messaging, analyzing data, researching, like where those really promising AI use cases are, just so that we can learn from both of you. So let's start with you for this, Aaron.
Yeah, I think we're at a very interesting time and point in the technology space where obviously AI is taking over. It's exciting and scary at the same time. Everyone's talking about, will this just eventually take over my job eventually? I don't think that is the case, but I think it's leveraging it to your advantage, making us smarter, making us work more efficiently, and being more proactive in our engagement and making us smarter overall. Yes, there are so many tools out there that can just do it all for us, but take it as a grain of salt. Yes, ChatGPT can populate an email for you, but make sure to read it through the message and be like, all right, is that really what I want to say? Is that speaking in the language that I want to portray myself? And make sure it's including the data points that are most important to you and most importantly to the individual that you're reaching out to. We don't want to sound like robots, especially in this virtual world that we're living in. Be personal, open up, talk about who you are as a person. But yeah, there are so many great tools out there, and really excited that here at ZoomInfo, we're at the forefront of these tools and how it's going to benefit us in the go-to-market space and just make us better partners to our clients. But yeah, I think overall, take it with a grain of salt as of right now, especially as these tools continue to get better and improve. Right now, they're not perfect, but they're a great starting point for how you engage with your clients and prospects.
Yeah, very well stated. Megan, anything to add here on the AI side, especially when you're doing, more of the day-to-day prospect? I'm curious to see where you're using AI.
Yeah, a really good one that I figured out early is if you're working enterprise accounts or mid-market accounts and they have subsidiaries, good luck. Especially global companies, they will have a lot of subsidiaries. I took the time to get into the investor page, download some of their stuff, and then just chuck that in. Claude was my go-to typically, or ChatGPT. It can read through and list you out the names of the subsidiaries and also by industry. So if you're feeling like you're kind of running into a dead end on an account, Aaron and I did this recently where, we just figured out where do we have subsidiary companies? What can we prospect into there? AI can be really great to utilize. It might not always recognize if you just ask, what are the subsidiaries of, whatever company. But if you do have an investor relations page, especially on enterprise, think about kind of utilizing AI, because you don't want to have to go through their investor relations report. It's 60 pages long. So that's definitely where I use it. Prospecting at scale, we talked about that a little bit, but just, utilizing a template for your base and then adding on to that based upon copy pasting title, company, LinkedIn, if you want to do that too, that can be beneficial. And then I have used it in the past for very day-to-day, my plan for the day. I'll put this is the KPI I need to hit. These are my goals for the day. I want to do the walking. I have a walking pad at home. I want to do 30 minutes on it. Chuck me together a day schedule. And it's really fun to use for that. I just like tell it to add emojis and like make it kind of cute. So that's kind of a fun extra one if you need a little support with like time blocking and scheduling too.
That is awesome. I have never used it for scheduling, and I am such a scheduling queen. I'm like the queen of calendar invites for all my friends. I'm known for that. So that is a cool idea. I'm going to play with that a little bit. Thank you. Okay. I know we have several Q&A questions we want to get to. So I have 2 more questions for the 2 of you, and then we're going right into Q&A. But Erin, this one's for you. You have a cool background. You came from wealth management. You came from professional sports. You've done some really interesting things. So I'd be curious because we do get the question a lot in women in sales. Like I have a non-traditional background, or I'm coming from a different industry. How did that background kind of prepare you to become a better AM? And just talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, I think I've been very fortunate to be in client-facing roles my entire career. I love interacting with people, asking questions. But as I think about your question, it really comes down to relationship management, like customer success, being consultative, utilizing different data, and obviously the negotiation and contract management piece is definitely huge. But as I look back at my career, for those of you who don't know, I worked for the Los Angeles Dodgers in their ticket sales department, and I worked with a wide demographic of individuals and all sorts of income levels. So money to different people means different things, and it prepared me for those sorts of conversations, those difficult conversations, people being upset at you, people being super happy. So that's how sports has prepared me for this, the SaaS world. And then also wealth management. I mean, nothing gets more high stakes than talking about someone's own personal finances and their own hard-earned money. So being analytical, again, consultative, looking and planning towards the future and realizing that this is not a transactional relationship. This is really a long-term partnership to help benefit the client.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I was going to ask you which sports team, so you answered my other sub question there. I appreciate it. And then Megan, we're going to turn our sights on you because we're celebrating. You recently got promoted. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So everybody say congratulations. But can you tell us more about the new role and how being an SDR really prepared you for the role that you're in today?
Yeah, so it's my 1 year at ZoomInfo. I've come a long way in 1 year, which is kind of crazy. But I am taking over the position of the revenue enablement manager for SDRs. So I'm kind of going from SDR to training SDRs, helping them with kind of their day-to-day. Since I found a lot of success in this position, I'm super excited to kind of merge toward that side. So it looks like kind of communicating between SDRs and then also the leadership team that we have here to make sure that they're aligned, and kind of helping SDRs figure out how can we get to your goals and where can we kind of upskill you. So that's been really where it is. I have a lot of research background. I'm very much a reader, so it's really exciting to kind of be able to share some of those maybe different insights with some of our SDRs.
Amazing. Well, congratulations. You got some congratulations messages in the chat too. So super excited for you. Thank you both for taking us through all of these answers. I know we hit you with a lot of different questions and we covered a ton of ground today. We have a few Q&A that we're going to try to get through because we have a few minutes here. So the first one, the one that got the most upvotes, is Sarah's question. This question is around a specific sales methodology, but basically this sales methodology says that you should start at the C-suite, get as high as you can. It's easier to go down than work your way up. And so Sarah mentioned that she's been functioning the way that you all do, create an internal champion and gain access to higher up. Thoughts on the different approaches? Any feelings towards a preference on one or the other?
I haven't ever tried that way. I mean, shoot, like if it works, it works. I feel like if you have really good connections, that might work. But yeah.
Yeah, if you have an in with the C-suite, great, go for it. Obviously, they're going to be your decision makers and your economic buyers and the signers for the order form. But based off my experience, I've seen that it would be a little bit more challenging, and helping build a story by talking to the individual contributors first has always been beneficial for me. But yeah, if you're seeing success reaching out to the C-suite directly, great. I just hope that, again, your messaging is very well tailored, talking about their goals and initiatives, and you have a true understanding of their business.
Yeah. And I would also add, I think this is very segment specific, because if you're just reaching out to CEOs of Fortune 100 companies, and if you
Yeah.
are leaving continuously meetings at the C-level of Fortune 100 companies, DM me so that we can get you on a Women in Sales event, because we want to hear what you're putting in your messaging. So obviously it's very different to get to a C-level that a 50-person company than it is at a 50,000 person company. So there's always nuance to these conversations and strategies, and kind of take what makes sense here. A reminder that Megan and Aaron are both playing in the enterprise space. So how they prospect and target their accounts may look different than you if you're in kind of a higher volume SMB function. So great advice here.
Wait, hold on. I did just see Emily like reaching out to C-suite, and they usually loop the right people to engage with us. That's a really good point. And our CEO talked about that on a LinkedIn video, where if you have like a really relevant email, and I have had that happen maybe one time for me. So I definitely kind of see that too. That could definitely be a good tactic. It's super interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's see here. Okay. So the next most upvoted question is around LinkedIn messages, which are always kind of like a big curiosity for everyone. Do you add a note every time you send a LinkedIn message or pitch, or only some of the time? So Megan, what do you think?
I don't know what happened to Aaron, but anywho, I don't. I think either way, like it can really go either way. I think the benefit of it, the argument for messaging is like you're multi-channel. Like if you say, "Oh, I just gave you a call," awesome, or you're able to introduce yourself. Sometimes I prefer to not to say like, I don't want to open with that, but if it's someone really targeted, I might send a message first thing. But yeah, generally I would say when I'm moving through stuff, I don't always start with a message.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say I tend to more often than not send connection requests without messages anymore, unless it's like someone where I have like a very fine-tuned kind of like reason for reaching out, mutual connection, all the things. Otherwise, for whatever reason, the messages without text or the requests without text seem to work better these days. So I don't know why that is, but let us know in the comments if you're seeing anything differently. We have time for one last Q&A question. So I'm going to take the next most upvoted, which is from Emanuela. And that question is, hi, I have to book 6 meetings each month with a decision maker, and 3 of them need to go to demo. How do I balance meeting quota with connecting with non-decision makers to penetrate an account?
Megan, do you want to start with that, since sounds
Yeah.
like more an SDR related question?
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay. So book with a decision maker, 3 of them need to go with demo. Okay. Yeah. So maybe figuring out who are you targeting first, like first week of the month, maybe go for like, make a list of like 10, or more. And then maybe you can kind of look downstream as you're working up. So like if you're trying to, decision make like VP level, maybe kind of take a look at the VP and then org charting it out to see, what you can do below. And if it has to go to demo, that can definitely be something where building that stories can be really beneficial. You can definitely also just do discovery on the phone with non-decision makers to try to get that story without booking like the full demo when you are kind of like on that schedule, for sure.
Awesome. Aaron,
value add for the demo. Sorry. Value add for the demo for sure.
Yes. Aaron, anything to add? Otherwise, we're almost at time.
I think it all depends on the time of the month and where you're at with the quota. But say you're starting off the month on a clean slate, yeah, definitely start with those non-decision makers first, and then work your way up the chain. I think it's only going to increase your chances of getting those decision makers to meet with you and then lead to a demo. But obviously, if this is happening towards the back end of the month, you're a little bit more panicked, and you may just need to go straight to the decision makers and make sure to do your research on the account. Use something like a Copilot, go to the company website, and don't always make it a product pitch, but go in there talking about a problem that you're going to be solving for them.
Focus on the problem and the proposed outcome. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Both of you, Megan, Aaron, this was an awesome conversation. We dropped a ton of knowledge. We are going to be working with the ZoomInfo team to figure out ways to distill some of this knowledge and bring it back to our community. So we will make this recording available post-event. Join the Women in Sales Slack community. Check out the ZoomInfo Copilot session demo that we dropped into the chat here. And we will see everyone for our next event. Stay tuned. We have events all the time, and you can keep an eye on the events channel and the Women in Sales Slack community for all the up-to-date notifications. So Aaron, Megan, ZoomInfo, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, everyone.